In the Gun, episode number 48 here of ITG. Wesley Uhler, Jed Drenning with you on this edition of In the Gun. Our dear Owen Schmitt. He's got another week off here, Jed. He's at the Bert Kreischer concert in Charleston. I'm messing everything up. I was thinking about how I said concert instead of show, and I was like, I'm gonna have to correct myself, and I'm thinking concert in my mind, and I said Concertston in Charleston. My goodness. Let's scrap this and start again. Hi, I'm Wes Uhler. He's Jed Drenning. This is ITG episode number 48. Owen Schmitt, he's in Charleston at the Bert Kreischer stand-up comedian show. Oh, my goodness. Jed, what's happening, partner? I've clearly lost the ability to talk very early on here.
Well, I texted Owen. I didn't get an answer. I said, does that mean you're going to be on stage? You know?
Yeah, right. Shirt off.
With his shirt off and go to it. Yeah, that's what I was wondering about. But well, good for him, because I was asking him, I was thinking, well, if he's busy tonight, maybe he can call in and be a part of it because he's played hooky 2 times in a row, right?
No, he's got senioritis.
Show, and we were hoping to catch up. He had a different show to do. But tonight, I think that show starts like right now as we speak. It's 7:07 in real time as we're taping. And I think Owen's show that he's at started at 7. I was like, dude, roll on with your life. Forget about it. We'll knock out a few minutes and move on with ours. So
that's right. It is. Yeah. It is the off season for all of us, certainly. But even during the off season, this episode of ITG brought to you by Bet Online. Folks, Bet Online remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. You can get analysis of every play, every prop, and every point at Bet Online. You'll find the latest odds, contests, team matchups, and game trends at Bet Online. Updated odds for everything from live games, championships, all the way through the summer and onward. BetOnline is your sports betting headquarters this season, so head to their website today or use your mobile device to sign up and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure you use the promo code Bleav when you sign up to receive your bonus. That's BLEAV at betonline.ag, where the game starts. Where we start today, Jed, is around campus here. Once again, the women's basketball team has a new head coach. Mark Kellogg has been named as the 7th head coach in women's basketball program's history. He is the 6th winningest active Division I women's basketball coach in the country by winning percentage, .788. So he's won almost 80% of his games as a head coach. Spent the last 8 seasons in Stephen F. Austin, which of course is in Texas. He'll fit in well with the Big 12. Compiled a record of 195-55, which is a 78% win percentage in 7 of those 8 seasons. Every year except for his first year there, they won 23 games or more. Jed, I'm not going to lie to you and act like I'm a women's college basketball expert, but the people that I trust that are and are knowledgeable and in the know, everyone seems to think that this is an outstanding hire for the program.
I agree. I'm not an expert either, and by any stretch of the imagination in any kind of basketball, but you recognize winning and you recognize a track record of success. And when you look at Mark Kellogg, that's what you're getting. I mean, this is a guy who has led 3 different schools to the postseason on a consistent basis. What he did with the Lady Jacks at Stephen F. Austin was just off the hook. I mean, he is an absolute model of consistency. He's a family guy. He appreciates everything about the brand that he's taking over. And you know what? I think it's kind of cool that on the heels of arguably a watershed moment in my lifetime for women's basketball.
Yeah, seriously.
That championship game, that Final Four run by Iowa and LSU leading to that championship game, snapping that streak for South Carolina. I mean, women's basketball was kind of the talk of the sports world.
Oh, for 3 days. For 3 days, absolutely. Women's basketball, you're absolutely right. Story number 1 in the sports world.
Yeah, I mean, a combination of Caitlin Clark and then what Angel Reese had done at LSU, and then a controversy, in that championship game. I thought it was an opportunity lost Monday night when the men played their championship. Look, I recognize it's a 24-hour window, but I was hoping to see some form. In today's world, with the graphics we have and everything CGI and computer generated, anything's possible. But I was hoping to see some form of a Michael Jordan, Larry Bird style McDonald's Super Bowl commercial game of horse between Caitlin Clark and Angel, Reese, making fun of the John Cena, you can't see.
Right.
I mean, what would have been cooler than that, And everybody's like, well, it's impossible to get it done now. Maybe, the WNBA playoffs or maybe next year. I'm like, look, you got to strike while the iron's hot. Your
Absolutely.
sport has never been hotter than it is right now.
No.
So strike while the iron's hot. So I think it was a marketing opportunity lost that they couldn't put something together to capitalize on that. But both of those gals are back next year. And it was funny. I messaged it to you and to Owen this week to see that clip from the McAfee show where McAfee and Pac-Man were on country roads saying, hey, we're kind of cooking and humming right now with some NIL action.
Get Caitlin Clark to Morgantown.
Yeah, get Caitlin Clark to Morgantown. I told you off air. In my opinion, it's going to be supremely difficult to dislodge a Des Moines, Iowa gal from the Hawkeye City, right? So
I think so. And I think they're going to find a way to take care of her there for sure.
Yeah, you would think. And I checked the NIL valuation, and we could talk all the live long day about
sure
how accurate or inaccurate those things are. It's an absolute guessing game. But this is post Final Four. So post the 9.9 million viewers that watched that game between LSU and Iowa, they still had her. Now I say still had. She tripled the amount of money she was worth to almost $600,000, and Angel Reese was worth a little more. So both of them were hovering right. I have to think both of them would demand more than that on the open market.
Yeah, I would think so. I think you're right, because it's such a listen. There's certain sports, right, where there's just only so many marketable people on a national level like that. Yeah. You know, like a lot of people are probably familiar with Livy Dunn. She's a gymnast at LSU, right? And I mean, if you compare the NIL money that she's making compared to everybody else, I mean, that's a Grand Canyon size gap. That's how some of these, non-football sports are. I got to think both of those girls have a real chance to cash in. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You, with these non-football sports, you really
you can make 50 grand just for posting something for a company on your Instagram.
Yes, absolutely. You could. So more power to them. But I just think it's cool that we land our new women's head coach and Mark Kellogg. Mountaineer fans have a ton of reasons to be excited about, right on the heels of that kind of a coronation, for the women's game over the weekend. So, good for him, good for us. And I think there's a lot to be excited about on that front. Let's see if he can, the success that he's had. Let's see if that track record correlates to success in the Big 12 and success at West Virginia. We certainly hope it does, and every reason to think that it can.
Yeah, absolutely. So all the best to Mark Kellogg, the 7th head coach in the program's history of the women's basketball team. Him, his wife, son, and daughter. Welcome to the Mountain State, and hopefully it's a successful tenure for all involved, certainly. This episode of ITG also brought to you by GoMart. Here to keep you going. Make sure you're signing up for your GoMart rewards as you travel all throughout West Virginia and beyond. All right, Jed, you got to have the details, the scoop for us. All right, this episode is about spring ball, as we're kind of in that time period. Obviously, here in April, we're all culminating in the spring game that's coming up here in just a couple weeks on April 22nd. But Jed, you had the privilege of being on hand for a practice, a scrimmage. I don't know how you want to label it. So let's get into it here. Where do you want to start? What do you got for us? Give us Jed's observations.
Well, there were quite a few folks on hand Saturday. It's one thing for me to watch the practice tapes, okay, but it's something far more different, obviously, to be on hand.
Sure.
And it gave me an opportunity to catch up with a lot of folks. I got to catch up briefly with Blaine. Okay. We both promised to follow up and have a more extensive catch-up session. That's going to take some time. Rashid was there. So, and I was briefing him on all the love that we
# respect too.
Thank you. I told him about it. He got a great kick out of that. I got to catch up with, it's always great to catch up with Castile, with Jeff. Mm-hmm. So, pick their minds, pick their football minds. Matt Jansen, Jansen's kind of a kindred soul, kindred spirit, So love talking football, love talking personnel with Matt Jansen. Always have, always will. Really appreciate that. It was nice to catch up with people from the personnel side, from the recruiting side. Trey was there, so I got to catch up with him. There were some big names on hand. There really were. So the media was there. There were still some coaching holdovers from the clinic on Friday that were at the scrimmage on Saturday. And then afterwards, I got to talk to Neil a little bit after practice ended. So it was nice to be on hand to be able to do that. And then from a personnel standpoint, we'll get into some of the more specific particulars here, but the 3 names, Wes, that I think are all Big 12 caliber kids. All on the
All right,
defensive
hold on.
side.
Oh, defensive side of the football?
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Oh,
I'm just on the defensive side. That's what I was
okay.
talking about first.
Okay.
These are all newbies. Okay. I think they have an all Big 12 caliber future. It's just a
Okay.
matter of when.
Sure,
I think
sure.
they're all going to play
So you
early.
don't necessarily mean for 2023. You're just
No,
talking.
no,
Okay.
no.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's what you're looking at. I think they're from a talent level, they're Mesidor level talents. Okay.
Makes sense.
It's a combination of Ben Cutter, who he's a football player. He's more athletic. It really lends credence to what I was seeing on tape, what I saw in high school, what I've seen on tape in the spring. He has some burst to him. He's very instinctive as a football player. I'm really excited about what Ben Cutter's going to do, and I think he's going to play early. It's just a matter of how quickly things slow down for him. Josiah Trotter.
Here, real quick with
Yes.
Ben Cutter. Remember, because you mentioned our buddy Trey Nyer, good friend of the show here, Trey,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Yep.
Remember when Trey came on with us when he did the very nice like hour sit down with us, gave us an hour of his time going over this entire recruiting class. He said that the day that Ben committed, right, or signed his letter, he was blowing them up for, let me get a login, let me watch some film. How do I watch some film?
That's
Let
right.
me get a login. How do I watch some film? Well, like before he's even on campus. So yeah, good early returns for Ben Cutter for sure.
He did say that. And, sticking to the linebacker room, Josiah Trotter, of course, we know the pedigree. Now, we're going to have to do a Walter White drill here. Say my name, right? It's Josiah. We all make the mistake. We're
not so Jeremiah.
Thank you. We're so used to saying Jeremiah.
A nasty linebacker in the NFL.
Yeah. Josiah is going to make his own name. I mean, he's going to be a player. You can already see the skill set there. And I think that's going to translate. He's going to play early. It's just a function of, okay, when do things slow down for him?
Sure.
And on the edge, James Hurd is a natural edge rusher. He really is. I mean, they don't grow on trees. He's going to play early. How quickly do things slow down for him? So those are three names just right out of the gate that I think will all play early. All three of those kids will contribute on the defensive side of the football. And then I'm excited to see when you start trying to populate your transition units. Those are the body types that you're looking, right, Wes? I mean, those are the body types that you're looking to contribute and pitch in on those units, on your kick coverage units, and on down the line. So,
yeah, you're not asking your wide receivers and your centers to go run down there and block or tackle somebody.
Yeah, that's right.
Your quarterbacks or your centers. You get some wide receivers down there, but not your quarterbacks, not your centers. Yeah, I get what you're saying. The prototype kind of to populate your special teams.
And I think those guys will be able to contribute there as well. But they're gonna be asked early, I think, to play. And then on the offensive side of the football, it's kind of what you'd expect. I mean, that running back room is going to pace all things. Now, again, Doug Nestor didn't play Saturday. Okay. And
as he probably shouldn't.
Yeah. And they're being smart with Zach.
Yep.
Throughout the course of the spring, they're being very smart and judicious with what Zach does and doesn't do. So it was difficult to get a true read on things up front, which is great for the younger guys because they're getting some reps. And I'll tell you what, there's some physical guys when you look at Solly Weedman and Mo Hamilton on the interior. Dylan Ray's coming along with that unit. So there's some promising young talent. It's just going to be a function of how versatile can we be with a combination of the 5-6 top guys. But in addition to that, those 2 or 3 younger guys that we can insert as well. But that running back room is, I think, where it should be. I really do. A lot of number changes. So I find myself when I'm watching tape and then when I was at the scrimmage on Saturday, referring down to what Monty texted me, what Montoro sent me, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, in other words, let me think so I can get this straight. Jalen is now number 2. CJ is now number 4. So there's a lot of things to keep track of, right? So, but both those guys are looking everything you'd hope them to be looking. Same with Tommy Mathis, same with Justin. And you got a little freshman in the mix there in that room that he has some twitch to him. So that's going to be an exciting and fun room. And I think the versatility, we talked about it before, especially the skill set out of those 2 in particular with CJ and with Jalen, their ability to flex out and create problems from a matchup standpoint. So I think there's some opportunities there. as advertised. We got a big-bodied kid on the perimeter at receiver, and we've talked about him. We've given him some love here before. And again, when you see him up close and personal, he didn't necessarily get the work in terms of being targeted in that scrimmage as much. But when you watch him in the drills and you just watch everything that he brings to the table, with Devin Carter, you expect the physicality, but what really jumps out at you, and it's what showed up on tape throughout the course of the spring. He's made some critical big third down catches. His ball skills are incredible. So to go with his physicality, to go with that frame, and speaking frame, old Cole from LSU.
I was gonna say, I know we gotta get an update on our new tight end here at some point, right?
And they're finding some fun ways to get him the football, and there's some other fun things happening with that room in general. I mean, Will Dixon's having a nice spring. So some of those younger guys, I think, have an opportunity to Traylon has an opportunity to make another step. There was a situation last week where he made a hell of a catch on up the sidelines, up on the practice field. So I think that tight end room, I'm excited to see what Blaine might be able to do with it.
Yeah,
because Blaine's also working with those fullbacks too. So those body types are all tossed into that same room, and you do see them finding some creative ways from a personnel grouping standpoint to get all these kids on the field.
Sure.
The two fullbacks that we're happy with and where they're at, multiple tight ends, a number of receivers, and of course the backs. So I think the possibilities are endless. Now, what you saw behind center, and I had an opportunity to talk to Garrett after practice pretty extensively as well. We were just, quarterback to quarterback kind of X's and O's stuff, right? And he took every first team rep because Nico was out. He was sick. So he didn't practice on Saturday. He's back and about now, but I'll tell you what, there's been some sicknesses going around my wife and my kid. I mean, it's just it seems
that time of year. It hit our house a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it's that time of year, unfortunately.
So it hit Nico, and so he missed the scrimmage on Saturday. But so Garrett was dragging a little bit by the time I talked to him after the scrimmage. But it's always great to catch up to him.
Sure.
We're talking different tweaks they've made and some things formationally and some different language they're using. And, I was asking him some things. Hey, I saw this on tape. Walk me through what exactly is that what I think it is? And he can always connect those dots pretty quickly.
That's good. That's good.
Source, obviously. So, but a lot of fun stuff to look at. But once again, it's not the true product that you're going to see when you consider. Once again, they're being smart, they're being judicious. Certain guys, they don't want hitting the dirt quite as often, and that
absolutely.
Aubrey Burks, going back to the defensive side, I think Aubrey's where you want him to be. He's going to take the next step to anchor down that back end and be a leader. He's going to assume that leadership role. And Sean Martin, you've heard Neil talk about him a handful of times throughout the course of the spring. Sean Martin is definitely, I think, on the verge of a breakthrough.
That's good. We're gonna need it at wide receiver, right? I mean,
we're gonna need him at 5 technique. I'm saying at defensive end.
Oh,
yeah, Sean Martin. Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know. There's something wrong with for some reason I thought I'm thinking Preston Fox there for a second. You said Sean Martin. I know you did. I'm telling you, I don't know what it is tonight, Jed. I'm getting all my words combined.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Preston, because again, this time last year, he was making some waves in the spring as well, and that kind of settled down over the course of the summer.
Right.
Once the competition
had a nice play or two against Towson as well too in that second game of the year.
He's getting a little more consistent with what he's doing, so he's going to be an interesting guy to keep an eye on. So and Lee Koba defensively, another guy that those guys are going to be expected to be the leaders. And from what I know,
yeah, I was just going to say, I know like you can't judge somebody just off of how they look, right? I mean, don't judge a book by its cover, right? But my goodness, does Lee Koba just look like a football player? Just look like a linebacker who's ready to inflict some punishment?
Did you see Eddie V?
I did not. Same way.
For the first time, they put Eddie V in front of the media. And it was fun. And you know what's funny? I couldn't help but notice. I'm a weirdo. self-proclaimed. Eddie V was put in front of the media to answer questions for the first time as a Mountaineer on the same day that Finland, his native Finland, joined NATO.
Oh, there you go. Listen, nothing's a coincidence, right?
Nothing's a coincidence. But it was awesome. Fun to hear Eddie V tell his story and talk about where he's at with things. And so
that's awesome. That's really cool. Good for him.
Yeah, and it's what I like about is getting these guys back on the field. Every couple of days you hear from a few more assistants. Jeff was out there. AJ's been out there. We're getting to hear from more and more guys, and they all bring unique perspectives when you get to listen to them and they answer some questions and field some questions. But it was fun to see Eddie V for the first time.
That's great. That's awesome.
On the sidelines, he has that. Obviously, he's from Finland, so he has that accent, right? But that's the most extensively I've heard him speak.
Okay.
That setting, and he acquitted himself well. He really did.
Good for him.
He acquitted himself very well. But it was funny to hear him talk about, he went from the junior league in Finland to graduating to the older league. So when he was 16, he was literally playing with 20 and 30-year-old men.
Holy cow!
Yeah. So,
jeez.
Yeah,
that'll get you ready for college ball.
Yeah, that'll get you ready. So, but and I played some ball in Germany. And it's very hit or miss when you play in those types of leagues.
Sure.
It really is. I mean, you'll go from somebody who was, he was a starter at Florida for 3 years to a guy who's, he's a horseshoe maker.
Right.
Yeah, literally. I mean,
who just showed up at the tryout,
Well, I mean, I had a receiver who was a horseshoe maker, and he was faster than a scalded dog. His name was Detlef Mueller, but he never played any college ball or anything. He was just
that's
fast.
Hilarious. Just Vince Papale just shows up at the Eagles tryout and makes the team, right?
That's what European football kind of is, and that's what to some extent what Eddie was trying to walk them through. But yeah, it was fun to hear from those guys.
That's cool. That's great.
Don't look now, but the spring game's quickly approaching.
I can't wait.
And right after the spring game comes the next crazy window in the portal. So that's May 1st window, and we're still targeting some folks. There's
the portal never stops, Jed. Never stops.
There's a host of positions that we're still going to be actively looking, right? And but it's very interesting when you consider the approach that a blue blood might take versus a non-blue blood like West Virginia, which is most schools, right?
Sure.
I think the difference would be the blue bloods can be far more selective and take the established commodity, right? The established commodity, like if Alabama needs a difference maker running back, well, they don't leave anything to chance. They just go get Jahmyr Gibbs,
correct,
who is a difference maker at running back at Georgia
They're not
Tech.
Signing somebody, a developmental player. They're signing the finished product.
Alabama doesn't have to hope they take the next step. Everybody else has to hope they take the next step.
Correct.
And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. It's really a lottery ticket is what it is for most schools. So, and you have to explain that sometimes if it takes money to do that, if it takes NIL cash, then that proposition needs properly explained to those providing that cash. Say, look, we're not buying a certain thing. This isn't a sure thing. This is a lottery proposition. Sometimes they work out, sometimes these don't. So if you're happy with that investment, that it might in fact work out. So that's kind of what you're looking at, especially like right now, when you go through, like if you go to On3 and go to the NIL segment of On3, which I'm there more than I should be. And you're looking at the kids that are rated in the top 10, the top 50, the top 100 that are uncommitted. Boy, they're tough to come by right now. I mean, you have to dig pretty deep. But you know what? I would also say this: the kid who ranks 242 overall, just in the nature of things have changed the last couple of years, is probably a lot better player than the kid who ranked 242 2 years ago.
Yeah, I would agree.
So plentiful, and deep. So. Yeah, it's just become a natural part of what we're doing now. It's we'll see what that receiver room does, and if we need another one, we'll just grab another one. But things have been. We talked about this before too, Wes. Things have been streamlined enough that there's tape available on all these kids. So if you're ready to pull the trigger on somebody and target
absolutely
for what you do, that's the key for what you do. it's not like, if a kid's going to Georgia, he's going to Alabama, or he's going to Clemson, we didn't want him. Of course we wanted him.
Sure.
But it comes down to some resources. So the valuation process has to be pretty keen. Like I'll give you an example. When you look at what TCU did a year ago, we've talked about this. They hit pretty big in the portal, but not by outbidding people with a bunch of high-profile guys that Alabama wanted, right? So what they did was they had a backup tight end from Texas that they recognized was going to fit what Sonny Dykes was going to try and do. They brought Sonny Dykes center from SMU. They had a will linebacker from Navy. They had Josh Newton, a cornerback from Louisiana Monroe. Now, take Josh Newton. Here's the example. We were very heavy after Josh Newton, and we thought we had a pretty good shot at getting him. But they came in again, with a pretty sweet deal. But Josh Newton was a guy that you recognize. You're rolling the dice on him. Yeah, he was a pretty good player at Louisiana Monroe against what they were facing, but he appeared to be a kid on the verge of taking another step. Now, sometimes that arc continues. They take the step. Sometimes they don't. Obviously, for TCU, he took the step, and he was a pretty key part of the run that they made to the title game. So we were after a kid like that. We were happy to roll the dice on him, but it fell through and we didn't get him.
Sure.
But that's just going to be the nature of what we're trying to do.
Sometimes you're going to get him. Sometimes you're going to, right. I mean, hey, this time a year ago, we got JT Daniels, right? He was one of the big prizes this time last year.
He sure was.
You're absolutely right. And I think another good example of that, the TCU from last year, the year before it was Michigan State, right? Mel Tucker hit a bunch of home runs.
$95 million.
Not what talk about hitting a home run. But not like that Michigan State was just going around and outbidding everybody. I mean, Kenneth Walker came from Wake Forest. It's not like Kenneth Walker was some dynamite kid who was leaving Tennessee because he was upset or, leaving.
Look at TCU's situation. TCU, they signed a bunch of guys that at the time, again, it wasn't like surefire commodities.
Right.
They just their batting average was very high because
the same Mel Tucker, Michigan State.
What they lose? They lost an all-conference running back who was on the verge of being an All-American running back to Ole Miss. They lost him. They lost one of the nation's best pass rushers in O'Shawn Mathis to Nebraska. So they lost, I would argue, take Quentin Johnson. I would argue TCU lost two of its top three players on their roster. And then they still had to find a way to overcome those losses. And then you're not going out and getting Jahmyr Gibbs from Georgia Tech. He's going to Alabama. So you have to roll the dice and hope you hit.
Yeah.
And they hit more than they didn't, enough to overcome those losses. And that's what we're all aspiring to do. You're going to lose kids. Everybody's going to lose some kids. But you hope that it's a net gain and you scout well enough and you out scout others. And that's what we endeavor to do. So that's where Matt Jansen comes in.
That's the West Virginia way, right? We got to outwork everybody. We got to do more with less. And let's hope we got the right formula cooking here. You got to go do it. It's easier said than done. It's certainly easier said than done.
We used to do it by getting kids and developing them and out developing other teams for 3 to 5 years because the kids were in the program for that long, and then turn 2 stars into NFL players. Well, now you don't keep kids 3 to 5 years. They bolt. So now it's condensed down. You have a 1-year window to do it before your roster's flipped and you completely have to reinvent yourself. And that's the new normal. And that's what we're all trying to find a way to do. So, yep.
That's absolutely it. No, you're right. And it's one of those things you can dig your feet in. You can hate it as much as you want, but those who do are going to get themselves left behind, and those who embrace it and find a way to use it to their advantage. See, that's a lot like the internet, Jed. When the internet came out, a lot of people weren't quick to embrace it, but those ones who were, I should say, they might have made themselves a little coin and had a little success in there as well, too.
I remember a buddy of mine explaining it to me. I was like, wait a minute, what now? And he signed up my first account, my first email account. He said, you got to try this. I'm telling you, because he tried for a couple of weeks to talk me into it. And I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about. And he said, look, I got you an email. You got me a what? Well, you want to know how old my Hotmail account is, which I don't really use. I still have it, but I don't use it.
20-some years, probably.
Do you know what my Hotmail email is?
Probably signal caller, big sexy at hotmail.com.
No. Let's tell you how old it is. Drenning at Hotmail.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's how old it is.
That's when you
Right?
know.
That's it. Yeah.
So my Google email address is my name, because I signed, like, I was I think a sophomore in high school, like 2006, when Gmail came out. And
Okay.
I had a professor who was like, guys, sign up for a Gmail account right now. Like, this is the future.
Right
and
now.
I have that account, 17 years later. That's still my email. It's just Wes
Wow.
Uhler at Gmail.
Wow. There you go.
Yep. So you gotta love
Perfect.
getting on it. Gotta love getting on it. This episode of ITG also brought to you by our friends at Toothman Ford. Speaking of NIL money, make sure you're supporting Toothman Ford. We all know cars cost less in Grafton. I've said it before. I'll say it again. They've got a great website, great inventory. You can check out everything they got there before you make your way to Grafton, where cars cost less. Jed, one more question I got for you here before we sign off on this thing. There's one person that you didn't mention, and that was great. I loved hearing all those updates from you. But one person that you didn't mention that I know the people are wondering about. Did you see anything from CJ? What's going on with CJ?
Yeah, CJ's practicing. Yeah, sure. He's not completely.
I figured he'd be in a limited capacity. Yeah.
No, more so than you would think.
Good.
Yeah. All the backs
looks like he's on the right trajectory.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Good.
And the other thing I didn't mention too is I mentioned there were a lot of high-profile recruits there, but in addition to that, a lot was made of the fact that Rodney was there again. Rodney.
Sure. They posted some social media stuff with him.
Yeah, he's ready to rock and roll. Yeah, he's ready to rock and roll. Let's do this, Wes. There's a guy. Matter of fact, I need to look this up and retweet it, and that way folks can get the information out there. This was a sad situation. There was a West Virginia YouTuber. I don't know if
Gold and Blue dude. Yes.
A West Virginia YouTuber.
I know. So sad.
Chris Petrie is his real name. He was in Liberty, South Carolina. He was only 42. He has a family, and he passed away. What I'd like to do, they put a GoFundMe because I guess he was uninsured. What he did was he left his previous job and his insurance.
To pursue his YouTube career. Yeah.
Somebody was telling me about this today, and he had to pursue his career in on the entertainment side of sports, and so he didn't have any insurance. So now they're kind of struggling to pay some bills, and so I'd like to get that out there. Is what I'd like to do.
I'm glad you said that, and you know what? We'll put that link in the description on the YouTube video. I'll drop that in there for you. Yeah, Gold and Blue dude. I tell you what, if you're my age, if you're in your 30s, your 20s, I'm sure you've definitely heard of Gold and Blue dude. He was pumping out a ton of content on his YouTube page. Has been for a few years. He's funny. He's high energy. He was a diehard Mountaineer. That's what he was. Yeah. To see him go so young, it's sad.
Time flies, but I did that show, I don't know, a few years back. But you're right, Wes. He was always tremendously busy. Anytime someone would mention him to me, they'd just say, "Hey, that's that guy that's always churning stuff out because he's so busy." And I said, and right away, he was
standing up in his studio and going nuts.
That's right.
He was great. He was high energy. He was a lot of fun. Yeah.
And so, Mountaineer Nation. That's what we'd request of you is.
Yep. Good call. I'm glad you brought that up.
Take care of your own, and this poor fellow's family is in a tough spot. Kids, a wife. So. Yeah, do what you can do there. Again, put the link. That's a good idea.
I'll put the link. The link will be in the YouTube description.
What we'll do is I'll look up, somewhere somebody had mentioned to me there's a GoFundMe. We'll look that up and try and get that out there as well too.
I'll put the GoFundMe link in the YouTube video in the description section. It'll be in there.
Just spread the word. Yeah, that's 42 years old. I
know. It's terrible.
That's tough, man. I was like, wait a minute, that's that dude that I saw. I was like, you got to be kidding me. That's terrible.
It is. It's tough, man.
What a tragedy.
Life's so fragile. Yeah. And, struggling with Crohn's disease, and, his brother put out a little bit of a statement and kind of not in great detail, but he was struggling with Crohn's disease. Basically, I think went septic like pretty quickly, unexpectedly, and they weren't able to get to it in time. And for anybody who's ever seen that or dealt with that, unfortunately, we've had that in my family in the past. It's a tough way to go, and it's a quick way to go. And so,
sure
just Nothing fun about that. We're praying for that family. Let's support that family in times like this, because that's what Mountaineers do.
Yeah, that's what Mountaineers do. So do that thing. I mean, I always say that, people can hurl whatever indictments they want our way, the other 49 states, but by God, if you get a flat tire, you want to do it in West Virginia.
That's right.
Or if you face hardship, you want to do it as a Mountaineer. And so let's all pitch in, and once again, for the 1,000th time, for the millionth time, prove that point to be true and show that we take care of our own and
Good call.
Help his fellow's family out. All right.
That's what we're asking of you this week. Normally I say something else here and we tap our ears and everything, but this week show some love to Gold and Blue, dude.
Yes.
Be an ear and support an ear. How about that?
There you go. I love it. That's very good.
I'm glad you did bring that up here at the end as well too, because he's one of our own, and that's what we do. We take care of each other. We uplift each other in tough times. Jed, thanks for breaking it all down for us as always, partner. That was great stuff. Final thank you to our friends Fortis for roof performance and financial security guaranteed. Visit fortis.us.com. We'll be back next week. Hopefully we'll have Big O.
One of these days, right? Yeah.
We'll continue to get you ready for the spring game, talk about everything going on at practice and all those good things here as we roll into springtime. For Jed Drenning, I'm Wesley Uhler. Thanks for listening, everybody. You've been in the gun.